Okay, thank you, Art. I'm Natalie from the counseling team. And before we talk about how to cover stress, let's talk about what is stress in here so that we have more understanding how stress is actually working. So the definition of stress is a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances. Stress is a normal, natural, physical, and mental response that help us cope effectively with situations, especially in emergencies. Stress can cause our body to produce chemicals that increase our heart rate, blood pressure, and our mental focus, so enable us to perform well for a very short time in a challenging situations such as exam. So what happens if we have too much or regular stress? It actually can cause to build up the chemicals in our body that can end up impacting our physical and mental health. However, stress is not necessarily all bad. Stress can help us provide energy, motivations, and stimulations to grow and learn from experiences. So now we know that stress can actually be positive and negative, and it depends on us how to respond to stress. So now I will hand it over to Vincent to talk about what actually can contribute to stress.
Thanks for that, Nat. So there are a lot of different things that impact on stress. And now that we know what stress is, what actually causes stress, what contributes to stress, and what triggers it? So stress affects us all in different ways. And what leads to one person becoming stressed may have little effect on another person. There are a whole different range of situations and events that result in us feeling stress. Some common ones are relationships, moving to a new place or relocating, peer pressure, grief and loss, trauma, having unrealistic expectations placed on us by either ourselves or other people, exams and assessments, and if we experience issues at school and at work. Some common physical signs of stress associated with the exam period may be increased heart rate, muscle tension, sweating, shortness of breath, trembling hands, headaches, upset stomach, and just being fidgety. Some common symptoms leading up to the exam period may be feeling overwhelmed, experiencing difficulty sleeping, increased irritability and being moody, feeling and being easily upset, anxiousness, low energy, feeling tired and lethargic, increased emotionality, so difficulty regulating our emotions, and difficulties to relax and wind down. It's normal to experience these signs and symptoms of stress. And when we speak to students through the counselling service, some of their common worries that they have regarding exams are they worry about the worst case scenario. So they're really being pessimistic with their chances of success and having a fear of failure as well. You may overestimate the difficulty of the exam, and you may underestimate your own capabilities of being able to manage and pass the exam. We place too much pressure on ourselves, and we may experience pressure from family, friends, and relatives as well. And we place these unrealistic expectations on what we're trying to achieve. So we try to sometimes live up to an ideal that may not be realistic for us at that time. Feeling that there is not enough time to learn everything, and we don't feel prepared enough for the exam. Stress impacts on our ability to recall and remember. So you may have a fear of going blank during the exam and you can't remember anything. Sometimes we don't understand the exam questions and instructions, and we fear that we may run out of time during the exam. So these are some of the common worries when we speak to students that they express to us about going through the whole exam process. I'll hand over to Edward now to learn more about how we can manage these feelings of stress moving forward.
Thanks, guys. So, how do we manage stress? Vincent has mentioned about this warning signs or what triggers stress. On this slide that I'm presenting, there are 4 common things that we normally talk to our students in helping them to cope. Be it, times before exam or assignments, during and after. So some of the recommendations I will give here will be based on, what is applicable to your situation. So the first thing is to maintain a balanced life. We normally encourage people to establish daily routines and set priorities and have regular times for what matters to them the most, such as your studies. There are times when we need to be assertive And when you have to, because there are some situations where you just have to say no or say sorry to someone because you can't do them any favor, and hope that they will understand, because you need to put, say for example, your revision for exams or writing your assignments. Know your limits and set boundaries for yourself as well. As what Vincent mentioned before, sometimes we expect too much of ourselves. So how can we be, balanced with those limitations? Healthy living is something that we definitely talk about, and we encourage people to get regular exercise, eat healthy food, and hydrate yourself with good waters, and fruits. Now take time to enjoy, do uplifting, calming activities such as walking, dancing, listening to music, and avoid things that would disrupt your normal body, such as alcohol, tobacco, drugs. Okay, so getting enough sleep is also very important. We need sleep to process our and rest our brain, and process what we've learned sometimes. So that's getting enough sleep is quite important among some of those healthy living advice you will get out there. Now, focusing on healthy mind, practice positive thinking. Notice your self-talk all the time, and this is very, very important when especially when you're doing exam, for example. You like to keep yourself positive, because unhelpful thinking such as, I can't cope, this is too hard, and then labeling yourself such as, I'm stupid, I'm worthless, it can make you even feel worse, and you can't focus on what you need to be doing during that time. So try using more helpful, positive self-talk, such as, I'm doing okay, so far so good, given what I have to do. Calm down, breathe, relax, things like that can be very helpful to keep your mindset on. And doing activities, even during exam, you can take a quick moment to do deep breathing exercise, which is one of the next things that I have on my PowerPoint, to practice meditation, relaxation, mindfulness exercise. This is helpful before, during, and after. Before and after, you probably can have a longer time doing it, but maybe during exam, time, you would just be mindful to keep it brief and short so you can get back to your exam. Practice gratitude, and what we talked about, compassion is very, very important. Self-compassion, patience with yourself during the exam too. Sometimes you might get really, really stressed with time during exam, but you need to practice that self-compassion and patience. Not to sell yourself short, and not to be too hard on yourself if you can't too. And remember to reward yourself as doing things such as visualize success and know that you did your best. And at the end of the exam, reward yourself with something which you think you deserve, something that's realistic. Healthy social life is also very important. Spend time with people who cares. Share your thoughts, your feelings, your worries with them, rather than bottling it up all inside. And remember, part of the thing is also, by being around them, sometimes we can distract ourselves. And also, schedule yourself to have fun, be it with yourself or with them. All right. So these are just some of the, general, recommendation we talk to students about managing their stress. Natalie.
Hey, thank you, Susan. They were to talk about what contributes to stress and how we can cope with that. So we understand this is a very challenging time and we may feel overwhelmed and stressed. And it's okay that if you want to talk to someone about your feelings. The counseling session is still running, but because of the COVID-19, all our counselors is actually working from home now. So we mainly provide telephone and video counseling at the moment. So if you want to have a chat with one of our counselors, you can contact the Student Hub on 9269-1314 to book an appointment. And remember that you're not alone in here, and it's okay to reach out for help. So thank you. This is about it, and I will hand it over to Anne.
Thank you, Natalie. Okay, so how do you best learn? So everyone learns differently, and in order to find a study method that works for you, it's important to know your learning style. A popular theory about learning styles is called the VARK model, which stands for Visual, Auditory, Reading, Writing, and Kinesthetic Models for Learning. And for most people, one of these methods would work best, but it's also possible to utilize a combination of different learning styles to study effectively. And to discover your learning style, you can complete an online assessment, and there's a wide variety available online. I think it's important to know and understand how you best learn to retain information to get the most out of your studies. So the first one is visual learners who learn by seeing. They're the type of learners that learn best when they have images to help them process the information. So if you're a visual learner, you could study using PowerPoint presentations, diagrams, charts, and graphics to help you memorize the information. Using highlighters to highlight certain types of information in a particular color can also really help visual learners make the link between the topics and help them remember that information when they're sitting in the exam room. So for example, if you're studying law, highlight the issues in yellow and the rule in green, etc. The second one is auditory. Auditory learners prefer to learn by listening and speaking. So if you're an auditory learner, you enjoy group discussions and listening to others. So you basically process information by talking things through. If you're an auditory learner, study tip is to read your notes out loud or study with a friend so that you can talk out loud and hear the information. I know when I was a student, I would tackle a previous exam paper and I found it really helpful to read the questions and answers out loud. The third one is reading and writing. So these type of learners like to read and take notes. So when studying, rewrite your notes or rephrase your notes, and you could refer to handouts, books, and other texts. And the last one is kinesthetic or physical learners who prefer to move and learn by doing. So you're a kinesthetic learner if you don't learn something until you do it, and you need to role play or be physically active to learn new information. And of course, when it comes to studying, role playing won't always be applicable. So instead, to memorize your notes, you could pace or walk around while reciting the information to yourself, or doing something while studying is also very effective for kinesthetic learners. So whether that be filling with a stress ball or pen to help your brain be actively engaged. So those are the four main types of learning styles, and it's important for you to determine which one or which learning style you have in order to know how you learn best. So tips for before your exam. So there's a quote that says, if you fail to plan, then you are planning to fail, which is why we're here to give you some tips on how to best succeed for your exams. So one of my first tips is to find out as much about the exam as you can. Don't be afraid to ask questions. So ask your teachers who are there to help you. Ask them questions regarding the material and the exam so that you are prepared for when exam time comes. Know how much the exam is worth to your overall mark in the subject, and know what format it's going to be in. So for example, is it going to be a multiple choice? Is it going to be an essay, or is it going to be an open book? I know when I was a student, I found it really helpful to keep my ears open in class. Teacher will always give hints and tell you more about the exam and what content you need to study, but you need to be tuning into class to receive such help, especially in the weeks leading up to the exam. My next tip is to review past exam papers. So get your hands on any old exam paper and familiarize yourself with the structure and format. So by reviewing past exam paper, you're able to familiarize yourself with clue words in the questions that let you know what the examiner is looking for. So for example, words like analyze, compare, define, evaluate, or discuss, like all these words ask students to answer the question in a particular way. And you can find past exam papers by asking your tutor or teacher, or it might already be up on Moodle as well. My next tip is to don't cram and get enough sleep. So for a lot of people, myself included, cramming causes anxiety, which lowers your ability to retain information. It's better to just review what you've already studied the night before and get an early night's sleep. So on the day before the exam, try to just recite the main points on each topic. Try to just review your notes and try to just read over or practice past exam papers. Studies have actually found that if you stay awake for more than 21 hours straight, you have the mental capacity as someone who is legally drunk in terms of your ability to concentrate, to memorize, and to recall information. So create a balanced study plan and schedule on each subject in order to boost your performance on the day. My last tip is to familiarize yourself with the process of online exams. So check the exam timetable early and note the times in your diary or calendar, and check before the day that you have everything you need to set up your space. We know that this semester's exam is very different to anything that we've done before, and it can be quite daunting for a lot of us. So students will be given the opportunity to do an online mock exam in order to familiarize yourself with the process of the new online setup prior to sitting your real exam. So make sure you know the details for this. Okay, so tips for during your exams. So as well as studying and knowing your topic well, it's important to be prepared for what to do once you're in exam room. So here are some tips on what to do during your exam. So read. When the exam starts, make sure you read the instructions and questions carefully and reread them again so that you are clear on what you need to do and what you are being asked. As simple as it sounds, it's really important to do, and lots of people just rush into the questions. So use 5 to 10 minutes at the start to read through the whole paper slowly and carefully. Make a plan. So when exam starts, you've read the questions, it's important to plan how you'll approach it. This means deciding what questions you're going to answer. So if there are options, choose topics that you know best and answer them first. How long you will spend on each question. So for example, 10-minute question, spend 10 minutes on each question. And know what order you will answer the questions in. So start with questions that you feel most confident about, as you may be able to answer them faster than you plan for. Check your answers. So if you have time at the end of the exam, use the time to check your work. So check that you have filled the information in the front cover correctly. Write your name and your student number. Check that you've answered all of the questions. Try not to leave the answers blank. And if you have time, write something even if it's just a guess. So last tip is that everyone is different. So remember that these tips are only some of the things that you can do to get the most out of your exams, and there might be other things that work even better for you. So ask around, try to ask or find out what your friends are doing or how they're studying, and maybe some of their tricks will work for you as well. Maybe your teachers will also have some good recommendations too. Yeah. So tips for after your exams. So you've finished your exam, and as you leave the exam room, let whatever happens in there go. What's done is done. You can't change anything anymore. So release any anxiety and tension with a few different ideas. So things like doing something rewarding and fun, such as meeting up with friends, watching a comedy, or having something yummy to eat. Do something that will allow your brain and body to switch off and recharge. Then tackle your next subject if you've got one. If you feel like the exam didn't go well and you need to vent, talk to a friend or family member about why it didn't go well, and sometimes talking out loud to someone might really relieve some stress and help you refocus on the next exam. So questions and answers. I'm just going to check the Q&A box to see if there's any questions. No. Not at this stage. Okay, so these are our other contacts. So don't forget that if you're feeling really stressed and need help to manage the stress, you can book in for a counselling appointment. The information's on the screen right there. But if you have any questions as well, feel free to contact SLAM at mp.edu.au.